Hi, everybody. This is Bob Gale, co-creator of Back to the Future, and you're listening to Brad Gilmore.
Doc! Okay, relax, Doc. It's me. It's Martin.
Oh, it can't be. Just sent you back to the future.
Oh, I know you did send me back to the future, but I'm back. I'm back from the future.
Great Scott.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
The way I see it, if you're gonna build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
Whoa, this is heavy.
Comicpalooza 2024, how we doing? Now come on, I know y'all been here all day, but we got more energy than that. Comicpalooza 2024, how we doing? Welcome to Back to the Future, the podcast live. My name is Brad Gilmore. I've been the host of this podcast since 2015. I picked a good year to get it started. I've done over 10 seasons now. This is the first time I've done it live in front of an audience, in front of what we call our fans pinheads, right? We understand the reference, I hope. Of course we do, Marty's band. And I'm excited to talk to y'all because today was a big day for me. I'm going to introduce you to our panel, but I got to meet Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd for the first time. Anybody else get to meet him today? No? Yeah, pictures, a couple pictures, right? What was your experience, sir? Did you enjoy yourself? It was awesome, right? It was an out-of-body experience for a lot of us. But let me introduce you to the panel. We're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about the trilogy, obviously, break down our favorite ones of them, kind of rank the series, if you will, talk about some of our favorite side characters. You just made a grimace. It's easier than you think. Trust me, there is a right answer to the best Back to the Future movie. And all of that. So let me start all the way to my left. He is the proprietor of a podcast called Comicast, which will also be here tomorrow at 3 o'clock on the main podcast pavilion stage. You also might know him for his work with ESPN 97.5 here in the city of Houston. Mr. Michael Carrell. Michael, how you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me, Brad. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone.
Michael and I became buddies at the radio station that I also work for, ESPN 97.5, because he is such a comic book geek and a comic fan.
Nerd,
as
yes,
I am.
yes.
Yes.
Accurate. Yes.
Accurate.
Yeah.
So we're going to have fun talking to him. And then also to my left right here, his name is Jeff Smith. He is the man who directed the documentary about Clue the movie, the 1985 cult classic movie Clue, called Who Done It? The Clue documentary, which also features our favorite Christopher Lloyd in it. So this is Jeff Smith. Welcome, Jeff Smith.
Hello.
Also flew in from California to be here, had to make a pit stop in Dallas, and for that, I am sorry for him, okay? And then to my immediate right, you might know him, nerdtropolis.com. He's the mayor of Nerdtropolis. Sean, how you doing, man?
Very good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk Back to the Future.
So this has been my favorite movie my entire life. Since I can remember. I actually saw it on the Disney Channel for the first time back in like 99, 2000, somewhere around there. I'm sure a lot of y'all saw it in theaters. This guy was like, how did you do it in 99? Yeah, I know. I was late to the game, all right? Don't blame me. I was just born in the wrong time. But I want to open it up to the floor. Michael, I will start with you, man. When did you first find Back to the Future?
When I was a kid, I watched it. I think it was on VHS. I assume that's how I watched it because, like you, I was born a little bit after the first one released, and then, I was like 2 when the other 2 released, so I discovered it more as a kid. But like I was telling Sean beforehand, it's been a while since I watched these movies, so rewatching them back to back to back leading up to this panel was an experience, to say the least.
Why do you say that?
Just because, when I was a kid, I watched the first one, and then, did whatever. It was a long time before I watched the second one. But watching them back to back to back, it feels like a continuous story that I just didn't remember that. It didn't, register when I was a kid. You know what I mean? It just didn't. I missed certain things that I picked up on now,
And then Jeff, like I said, he did Clue, the documentary, Who Done It? The Clue documentary, which also came out in 1985. Any Clue fans in here? We have Clue fans?
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. Definitely. See his documentary. It's a great documentary. A lot of the cast is in it.
Yeah.
Talk to me. What was your earliest Back to the Future?
So I am old enough to have seen Back to the Future.
What gave it away?
Yeah, the gray. I have seen, ironically, I've seen Back to the Future in the theater when I was a kid, but did not see Clue in the theater because Clue was gone real fast from the theater that December of '85. But yeah, saw it in the theater, and then since I'm from Southern California, I remember going to Universal Studios that summer, and the DeLorean was there in the line for all to see while you waited for the studio tour. So that was kind of a big deal. So I've seen all three in the theater because I'm old enough to have seen all three in the theater. So I waited for Back to the Future 2 because we had to wait till 1989 to see Back to the Future 2.
I feel like we needed to make sure that all demographics were covered, in the age range. And that's why Jeff really was here. He's filling a quota for us.
Thanks,
Jeff.
Jeff.
I'm happy to help.
And then Sean, what about you, man? I mean, you and I have bonded over our love for Back to the Future and all things nerddom. But talk to me about your experience.
So I'm a 90s kid, so I have very fond memories watching a lot of movies and television. I'm a big Michael J. Fox fan. Loved everything. I wanted to be his best friend when I was a kid in the 90s. I was like, this is the guy I want to be friends with. I mean, he looked like a kid throughout his whole life pretty much.
Yeah, still does.
But I think from airing on TV and going to Blockbuster and picking up the VHS my parents were, I mean, that's really where I found it and just fell in love with it. I mean, I have such vivid memories of watching it many times. I mean, probably close to 100 times between the three films.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the probably, and I think everybody in here would agree, most rewatchable movies of all time. The trilogy in itself, you can continue to watch and still find little parts and little nuggets that you didn't see before. It's really been an honor to do this podcast and to be in front of you all to talk about it, because we're about to get into the debate of which is the best Back to the Future movie, and there is a correct answer for this, so I'm going to tell you this right now. But I've been able to have conversations with Christopher Lloyd, like we've talked about. He's been on the podcast. Bob Gale, who co-created Back to the Future, has been on the podcast twice. Leah Thompson, Crispin Glover's been on the show. James Tolkien, who couldn't make it. Don Fullilove. I've had most of the cast on there. And what's consistent with all of them is the rewatchability of it. And I think that it's been timeless for so many people because of not only the nostalgia of it, but at the end of the day, it's a movie about choices and how choices impact our entire life, and how if you did one thing differently one time, your entire life would have been different. And I think that the root cause of that, or the root story of that movie, is what makes it resonate with us so much. And the DeLorean is pretty badass, too. I think that has something to do with it. But okay, I want to open the floor to this. What is the best of the series? Because I feel like y'all are going to have an obvious answer. There's an obvious answer, and then there's a correct answer. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's both.
So Michael, which is the best in the series according to you? We'll get everyone's answers, and then we'll debate.
I go like honestly, I'm like tied between the first two. No, I'm sorry, the third one. I'm gonna lean towards the second one.
Okay.
I like the different aspects of, like, for one, going to the actual future in this one, going to 2015. Wow, what a way to go to 2015. And like the going back and seeing parts of the first one play out in different ways, but from his perspective, like Marty's perspective in this new point of view, I really like that. Like I thought that was really fun. And two, like having rewatched it recently, like that still like holds up, like just the look of it. Like there's some that's a little whatever, but it still holds up in a lot of ways. And I don't know, I like the second one. I like where it goes in the second one, going to the future, going to the past, back to 1955, and I don't know. I like that balance of number two.
Okay, number
two.
two. We're going to see where we stand on that here after everyone answers. So what do you think, Jeff? Which is the best of the trilogy?
The first one is the best one, and that's all I have to say, because
Easy answer.
it's very easy. It's the first one.
That's it? That's all you got for me?
What else
You're
is
saying
there
the
to say?
first of every
Well-
movie is the best one?
No, but usually. No, I would say, I do think that age has a part to do with it. Again, I have to go into grandpa mode. That's the one I saw. And then I think because maybe I had to wait so long for two, that when two kind of came around, like most movies, like it's hard to live up to the hype, especially because one is so incredible. That being said, my favorite parts of two are going back into one, because that you really hadn't seen before. So that's pretty cool. And then three's fun because the nostalgia. Like three, I love the opening credits of three. That's my favorite part because I love the music and just going back. That's like the first kind of time we ever saw something that was almost like fan service, but not in a bad way. Like seeing Doc's house again, even though in the movie timeline it was yesterday we were just there.
Right.
But for us that lived through, going through the movies when they came out, it had been 5 years, and it was kind of like, oh, we're back. It's neat. That's why it's funny in Back to the Future too when he says, "I feel like you were here yesterday." And he goes, we were. And I'm like, we weren't. It was 4 years ago. But yeah, number one.
Number one? Okay. Sean, I'm going to throw it to you.
So if you asked me this question like years ago, I'll probably say this number 2 is my favorite. I mean, it's super cool going in the future. As I keep rewatching them over the years, I don't know why I find myself watching all of them. As I get older, I kind of love 3. I think it's a full circle movie.
This is a man who gets it. You know what I mean?
Oh, no.
This is a man who's got intelligence. Go on.
I mean, I have some of my favorite scenes are in part 2, but something about 3, the story for Doc, and just kind of a conclusion, and really, setting up something that could have been special if we do get a 4th film is awesome. But I don't know, it's something about that. As you keep watching, you get older, you actually appreciate 3 much more for what it was trying to do, and it's a shame it's underappreciated. So every time people ask, what's your favorite? I said, go watch 3 again and really pay attention. But also, watching 1, 2, and 3 in order might help you appreciate number 3 the most.
Yeah.
I think the rewatchability of, I think the answer is Back to the Future Part 3 is the best one, in my opinion. Now, y'all can shake your head all you want to. You can debate me all you want to. Look, you can Home Alone me all you
I'm
want
not
to,
shaking
old
my
man.
head. I'm purposely holding my head, so I'm not shaking.
You need to update your references, old man. I'm just kidding. But to me, what I agree with Sean is that the Back to the Future 3 having because if you think about Back to the Future 1, perfect movie. I think we all agree, right? Back to the Future 1, perfect movie. Round of applause, yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
Quentin Tarantino also said it was a perfect movie.
Quentin Tarantino says it's a perfect movie, and I would agree with that. But to me, in part 1, what do y'all think Marty's flaw is? And this has always been a holdup for me, because in every great movie, somebody has something that they need to get over and get past in order to become different at the end and more realized or what have you. In Back to the Future 1, you can make the argument that Marty is more so, we're looking at the story through his eyes. Yes, he's trying, hold on, Jeff, I know you want to get in here. Hold on, wait your turn, take a ticket. But to me, yes, he's trying to get his parents back together, but really it's Crispin Glover's story, George McFly. It's George McFly's story of him overcoming his fear of rejection, punching Biff out at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance, and that's how he grows. In the second and third movie, we get introduced to Marty having this flaw, being called a chicken, or yellow, as they refer to. Jeff, yellow is a colloquialism in the South. I just don't know if you know that.
Why are you picking on me all of a sudden?
I don't know, because you're right next to me.
I guess.
That's why I put a chair between us. I didn't want to get picked on.
Sean was smart.
That's why I sat to the left.
Exactly. I can barely see MC from over there.
I'll back up.
No.
But when you think about it, they introduced this flaw for Marty that gets paid off in 3. And then also you get a story for Doc. Doc gets a love story, and he gets to have his time with Clara Clayton, who he falls in love with. And what I love about it is Doc thinks so scientific about everything. It's zeros and ones. It's the science behind everything. And he even says to Marty earlier in Back to the Future 3, it's ridiculous to think that I'd fall in love at first sight.
Yeah.
There's no such thing. There's no explanation for something like that. And then he figures it out. He finds it out. And he realizes through love that everything that he's done up until this point has been meaningless or a mistake. He talks about time travel being a mistake. Now, that ends up kind of changing toward the end of the movie. But I feel like you get a conclusion for Marty that makes sense. You get a conclusion for Doc that makes sense. And it takes place in the Old West, and it's just nice and slow, and it's a love story. So that's why I think 3 is the best. No love for that? I thought that was a really good explanation. Thank you. Well, what do you think? You were going to say something.
Marty's flaw in the first one is that his father, he doesn't respect his father, therefore he has learned not to respect himself, which is why he doesn't send the demo tape to the record company. Through saving his father by going back in time, he learns to be a mentor to his father and tells him if he believes in himself, he can accomplish anything. His father does the same thing at the end, and Marty learns to believe in himself.
Well, when you put it like that, what do you think, MC?
Thus, character development.
Well, here's the thing, though. I want to give Michael credit on his saying Back to the Future 2. You see my gentleman here wearing the hat and the jacket. I think that the most...
And his pockets are inside out.
And his pockets inside out because he's a player. But I think that when you think about the Back to the Future trilogy, there might be more iconography from Back to the Future 2 than any other one.
When I was writing my notes for this, that's the one that I wrote the most notes on because there was more. Not that there wasn't anything that I didn't enjoy of the first one or the third one. It's just there was stuff that stood out to me more with the hoverboard chase sequence, the actually going back and dealing with different aspects of Back to the Future Part 1. Like there's different moments that just stood out to me more in that one that I also related to in some ways. So I thought it was really, that's why I like that second one so much. But I do agree, first one's perfect.
Well, first one's perfect, but we're not talking about what movie's perfect. We're talking about
It's perfect.
I mean, it's perfect. So then you gotta, whatever.
Well, I mean, 2 is exciting.
Yeah,
We get a lot of collectibles from 2, right? A lot of cool products and stuff
Well,
you can buy.
think about it. You have the hoverboard,
The Pepsi Colas,
the Pepsi Perfect,
The Nike shoes.
the hat, the jacket. I mean, everything he has right there.
everything he has on. The almanac,
Yeah.
right? I don't think that there's a better, almanac is so iconic. And then you have all the things that they got right about 2015, where...
Oh, yeah, so many things.
Yeah, what are you looking at like that?
That's flying cars that are out there in the parking lot. Yeah.
Well, we have not flying cars, and we had something that was technically called a hoverboard, although I don't think that it really classifies as it.
I mean, they could have put a Cybertruck. That would have been cool if they predicted the Cybertruck.
But I mean, think about it. They predicted stuff like paying for things with your thumbprint, right? Picture-in-picture television. They even really had the Apple glasses before anybody else, where you're watching things there and answering phone calls right there. Alexa was essentially how he would come through the door, as turn on the lights and what have you. So I think that when you think of the iconography and the flying DeLorean, although it's at the end of Back to the Future 1, it's really featured prominently in 2. So with all of that, like the iconography, to me, is the strongest in Back to the Future 2. What do you have to say to that, Jeff?
If that's what you like in your movie, that's fine.
I mean, the first movie is in Part 2, technically, kind of, when they go back. So you get both worlds, I guess, the best of both.
I mean, so what's your definitive ranking? Since you seem to be the grand poobah here, directing
I'm not,
the traffic.
but I'll say it's 1 is the best, 2 is the next, and then it's 3. It's right in order.
Okay, let's ask the people. This show's all about the people. It's always about the people. Okay, if you think Back to the Future 1 is the best of the trilogy, clap your hand. I didn't say you had to stand. I said, okay. Back to the Future 2 is the best. Clap your hand. I think 2 might have 1 on that one. Okay, Back to the Future 3, clap your hand.
Don't use the mic. Don't use the mic to...
I think 2 might have won that one. I think 2
Who
might have
just
won
loves
that.
them all equally?
Yeah, who loves them all equally? Yeah, everybody here. Now, there are a couple things that, like you said, not only did 4 years pass between Back to the Future 1 in 85 and then Back to the Future 2 that came out in November of 1989, but there were some cast members that changed, right? Crispin Glover, who did phenomenally in Back to the Future Part 1, was not in Back to the Future 2 or 3. He was replaced by Jeffrey Weissman.
How was Crispin Glover when you interviewed him?
He was great, man.
Yeah.
He was a little...
What's the most Crispin Glover-y thing he said?
I mean, everything that came out of his mouth
was Crispin Glover-y.
He was Crispin Glover-y, like from the bottom to the top. You know what I mean? And it was one
Was
of
it in
the,
person?
Huh? No, it was over the phone.
Okay, so you didn't have to worry about getting kicked in the head.
I didn't have to worry about anything. I wasn't like Letterman.
Right.
You know what I mean? There was no Letterman issues. But he was great. But it was replaced by Jeffrey Weissman. Now, I wanted to ask y'all, when did you realize this? Because as a kid watching the movie, I never knew that it was a different person.
I just realized now when you told me.
What?
Today, years old. Yeah.
You had no idea? Yeah. Crispin's not
the
in
same.
And he
George
attempted to sue because he was like, "You're using my
did sue.
likeness."
He won.
He did win?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he ended up suing the production because they tried to make it look like Crispin Glover with using prosthetics on Jeffrey Weissman.
She's looking it up right now going.
She doesn't believe us.
No, it's true.
Honestly, I wouldn't believe me either. You know what I mean?
don't,
And
but
you
this
definitely
one's true.
You definitely don't have a believable face.
But they did a good job, right?
They did a good job. But so yeah, he ended up suing him because they used his likeness, and there are now rules in SAG-AFTRA where you can't use a character's likeness without their permission. But say again.
Now our favorite is one.
Hold on. Why does it change
Because
everything?
2 lied to you.
Feel betrayed.
Betrayed.
Yeah.
Did you say you feel behooved? Is that what she said? What a great word. Congratulations. I feel behooved, too.
Is that
Is
from
it
the
good to be
50s?
behooved?
That sounds like a 50s thing.
Is it good to be behooved or bad to be
Did you
behooved?
learn that in 55? Behooved?
Are you
gonna
a
go to
time
a-
traveler?
Are you going to a shindig after this? Or a sock hop or something?
My entire childhood.
It's just, so okay. So that
We
was
can talk after. It's okay. I understand.
that was big, but to me, even bigger
Did
than
you
that-
know it's a different Jennifer?
That's what I was about to bring up.
Okay. Okay,
So
good.
this is another age
More
old debate.
obvious.
Well, that's the thing. There's, technically 3 Jennifers, because the original one was Malora Hardin.
Right.
And she was too tall for Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on with this franchise.
That happens, man.
Two Martys, that's true.
there's
There
two
is,
Mar-
we do see Eric Stoltz's hand.
Right. Now,
Stoltz.
Hold on now. Have y'all seen the Eric Stoltz footage? A lot of y'all of what's come out. What did we think? Did we like that, or did y'all see it?
I think they made a very good choice.
Why do you say that?
Because Michael J. Fox is a better Marty.
But he was the original choice, right? They just couldn't get him, right? And that's why
Yes.
they went Stoltz. So
They wanted
blessing in disguise.
Yeah, the producer on Family Ties didn't even tell Michael J. Fox that he
Gary
was up for Back to the Future, and then so they hired Stoltz. Stoltz worked for weeks.
They shot for 7 weeks on the original
Yeah.
Back to the Future movie, and according to Christopher Lloyd and Tom Wilson, who played Biff, they said that they got to the point in the movie where you started wrapping up and saying, "Okay, what are you working on next? Like, what do you have coming up this summer?"
April Fool's Day.
Things like that. And they were all called to the lot one night, and they were told that Eric Stoltz had been fired after 7 weeks of filming the movie, and they're going to have to reshoot essentially the entire thing with a new actor.
Back to the mall, everybody.
But what stands out to me about that is that every actor except for Michael J. Fox is redoing this movie. This is their second run through.
Do you think they did it the same, or do you think they went, "Oh, good, I'm glad to change it up a little bit"?
I think
That would
changed
change it,
up.
right?
Had to.
Well, especially now you have to also look down.
Right.
And Claudia Wells is like, yes.
But I wanted to ask it really about the Jennifers, because the original Jennifer was Claudia Wells in Back to the Future 2. In Back to the Future 2, she couldn't return because her mother had an illness, and so they replaced her with Elizabeth Shue, which I know Elizabeth Shue, people like Elizabeth Shue, but I don't like her more than the original Jennifer. I'm an OG Jennifer guy. Make some noise if you're an OG Jennifer person.
I knew you would be.
I'm getting some people to say no. What, you don't
Really?
you don't like the original Jennifer? Didn't have it. Well, neither did Elizabeth Shue.
Elizabeth Shue sleeps through the whole movie.
She literally slept in 2 and 3.
She did an excellent job. I believe she was asleep.
I mean, she was the it girl. She was in everything. So, I mean, that's why I kind of prefer the original Jennifer.
You believe she was asleep?
I bought it.
Yeah, you bought it? You were into that?
She's like sleeping on those laser discs in the alley. I'm like, yep.
What about you, Michael? Did you notice the 2 different Jennifers?
Yeah, well, especially recently when you watch it back to back. Oh, wait, what? Yeah, it's very obvious. But I'm more of an OG as well. OG Jennifer.
Well, you're an OG in general, but you're an OG Jennifer
but like,
person, right?
yeah, thank you. Respect. Props. I'm not going to continue this. but I will say, like, Jennifer, throughout the whole, I will say she's underutilized throughout, especially in the last 2. She's just underutilized. I don't know that I don't know what directions you would want to go, but like, I would have liked to have seen more from that character in some ways.
Well, didn't you, as the guy who wrote the book, isn't it true that there was never an intention of doing Back to the Future 2 and 3? And Zemeckis and Gale both said, like, if we knew, Jennifer never would have gotten in the car, because immediately they went, all right, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
And then they thought of something really quick, obviously, like knock her
Put her
out.
on this porch.
Yeah.
Let's let her
Yeah, knock her out, sleep over here, and then go see yourself, fall down, get in the car, asleep. What do we do with her?
Put her back.
Right there.
Let's put
Like,
her
should
on,
we open the door? No, it's a dream.
let's put her on the porch, and we'll pick this up in 3.
Yeah. Hope it works out.
I'm sure she's fine.
Yeah, even though like there's bars and there's like
It's fine.
rabid dogs running through the street, like,
Nothing will
it's a
happen.
rough night in Hilldale.
Exactly. Well, I mean, would you have liked to see more from Jennifer?
Yeah, because I mean, she's part of the story. I mean, she's gonna be Marty's wife, and they're gonna have kids, and so her story is just as important as everyone else's.
Now,
It's married in the chapel of love.
took the lines out of my mouth, because Sean recently became engaged. Let's give his beautiful fiancés up here. after seeing Back to the Future the musical, right?
Yeah, so I wanted to obviously propose to her, tricked her to go to New York. I'm like, really want to see the musical. I'm a big fan, obviously. There's also the Rockefeller tree lighting we can go see. And so, yeah, that was the whole purpose of the trip. But actually, it was just an engagement trip, actually.
It was an engagement trip. Congratulations. Are you going to get married in the Chapel of Love is the question.
Oh, maybe we'll just go to the Back to the Future and just get on stage and do it there.
At the musical?
Yeah, maybe.
You have that kind of pull?
No, I don't.
Wow. I didn't think so. I didn't think so. Now, when we're talking about the rankings of the movies, so Michael, give me yours.
2, 1, 3.
2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
I mean, originally I was 2, 1, 3. But I'm trying to champion 3. So, I mean, I'm at 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1? You're putting 1 at the end?
Yeah, because part 2 gave us a lot of cool stuff.
Are you okay?
I don't know what's going on over here.
I came here to fight.
I almost just passed out. I almost pulled an Elizabeth Shue Jennifer and collapsed on the ground.
Now, some of the original choices for Doc were really interesting, right? I mean, Jeff Goldblum was considered for Christopher Lloyd.
Lithgow, I think.
John
right?
Lithgow
Yeah.
was considered, but the most inspired choice, Eddie Murphy was considered for Doc Brown.
What?
Eddie Murphy was going to
That
be
can't
Doc
be true.
Brown. It's completely true.
He was like barely older than Michael J. Fox back then.
Well, it would have made a little bit more sense for them to be hanging out.
That's a good point. They don't really explain that. Thank you, John Mulaney.
You know, it made a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
But what do you think of Eddie Murphy as Doc?
Sure.
I think if they were to do it now, he'd be a great Doc, right? That'd be like a cool little mix-up.
Well, now, yeah, I could see maybe.
Eddie Murphy now.
not
now.
Eddie Murphy then.
So, okay, if we're recasting in 2024, Eddie Murphy is Doc Brown.
No, it's Doc Little. Dr. Doolittle.
Doc Foley.
He had that one in the chamber. It was ready. It was like
somebody please say.
somebody set me up for Doc Little.
Sorry, it was a doctor.
Doc Little.
That's your
but-
Eddie Murphy go-to.
The other big fandom, this is where I'm getting with these different recastings. The other big fandom that I'm a part of is professional wrestling, right? I've worked in pro wrestling for 12 years with a guy named Booker T, who's a Houston, icon and legend, and we work in this company called Reality Wrestling. So I thought it'd be a funny thing, since this movie happened in the 80s, there was a big pro wrestling boom in the 1980s. If we had to recast Doc as a 1980s professional wrestler, who are we going with, Jeff?
Rowdy Piper.
Rowdy Piper's not
Definitely.
bad. Who do you got? What do you got? These days,
No, in 85.
but in '85,
Listen, a lot of the wrestlers from the 80s are a hard get right now. It's
We're talking
basically
wrestling. I
Hulk
kind of want to see
Hogan,
Andre the Giant come into
hard get.
Yeah, with a really small Marty, it'd be awesome to see the size difference between the two of them.
how's he going to get through all that
How's he
exposition?
going to get in the DeLorean?
That's where you bring in the Cybertruck.
Okay. What about you, MC?
The first one that popped in my head was Macho Man Randy Savage.
The Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Yeah, that's the right answer.
1.21 gigawatts. Well, let me see, Marty. Come in with the 1.21 gigawatts. Is your flux capacitor at full flux? Yeah, dig it.
Yeah.
Oh my
I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the Macho Man as Doc Brown.
Brown.
Yeah.
Step into a Slim Jim,
That's what powers
Marty.
up the DeLorean, all the Slim Jims.
Yeah.
Now I just want to do the rest of the podcast as the Macho Man.
You should do that.
So, what do we think about?
They found me.
I love that. I love Macho Man Randy Savage
All
as the
right.
recast.
Yeah,
as the recast,
yeah, that's
right?
a good one.
Now, I want to talk about some of the favorite quotes or favorite scenes that y'all have from Back to the Future, and kind of what ones stand out the most when you watch the entire trilogy. What is your favorite scene, Sean?
I think the introduction of the hoverboard is probably the most iconic scene.
The introduction of the hoverboard.
But my favorite scene with the hoverboard, I think, is when he goes back and he is in Biff's car and they're in that tunnel. I think that's one of my favorite scenes. That whole sequence going on towards the end is really, really fun and really cool.
MC?
Well, I mentioned it earlier. The hoverboard sequence in that, like, just mirroring how much of the original like chase scene in the first one, and they mirrored it a bit with the hoverboard sequence. And I forget who says the line of like, "Man, this seems familiar." It's
Old Man Biff.
Oh yeah. I like that sequence. I like that
we
a
have
lot.
two for the hoverboard. What do you got, Jeff?
It's so funny that the favorite scenes are the ones that are like the one in the first one.
Yeah, it's
I like
crazy,
that
huh?
one because it's just like the better one in the first movie.
Yeah, that's why two's best.
So I would say the end of like the final going to the clock tower in the first one is the best, because I still get nervous that he's not going to make it. Like or that when Doc, when it falls apart, he looks down and does that amazing Christopher Lloyd scream when he's losing his mind because all this is happening and the tree falls down and it gets disconnected and he's like doing. I remember the audience at the same time is making that exact same sound because they're like, he's not going to make it, and then he does. But there's something about movies that have that kind of tense scene at the end that you're like, I hope he does make it again this time, because I don't know. It's kind of pretty close. So it's definitely. Yeah.
It's the only the clock tower scene is mentioned in all three movies.
And they do, that's right. They do show it all 3 times.
What you got back there? Were people clapping after they made it in the theaters? Since you were there,
I was there.
Wait, hold on.
At
Since
age
you were
10.
there,
How about that ticket stub? He has that ticket stub still?
yeah, I think he still got the tickets. A ticket stub.
I would say, yeah. Yes.
That's what you got? For
Sure.
it?
Yeah, they clapped.
Well, I will say it is like the most like high five moment of the movie because there's so many things that have to go exactly right in that moment.
Remember that scene at the beginning of Back to the Future 3 when he makes it at the end? That's the best scene. It's from the first one.
Just let it go, man.
No.
Let it go.
Never.
Let it go. I think that is the best scene. And to me, when they were writing this script, now Bob Gale and Bob Zemeckis came up with the idea for Back to the Future. They always wanted to do a time travel movie. Bob Gale discovered in his folks' basement his dad's old yearbook. He found out that his dad was the president of his graduating class. Said, I would never have been friends with the president of my graduating class. And he said, wouldn't it be interesting if you go to school with your parents? And that's where it came from. But there were several things that did change throughout. And when you talk about that being the best scene in the movie, which I agree with you. I mean, the end there is the best scene. I also think when they're in Twin Pine Mall and the Macho Man Doc Brown says,
If this baby hits 88, you're gonna see some serious shit, Marty. Yeah.
excuse me. But that initially wasn't even going to happen because for Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull fans know, the original time machine was going to be a refrigerator. That they were going to go to a nuclear test site, set off an atomic bomb, and send the refrigerator back to 1985, which I think this was a really great thing that they decided to change. Jeff, I mean,
Very good change, yeah.
But the DeLorean wasn't the original. They wanted Ford came to them and said, let's do a Mustang. So they're like, a Ford Mustang? Not cool enough.
Yeah, they said Doc Brown doesn't drive a Mustang, but there were several changes. But I mean, I think going from a refrigerator
In the desert.
in the desert.
Can you imagine what the scene would be? And like, okay, put the fridge in the truck, and now we're driving to the desert.
Right.
We'll be there in 4 hours. Yeah, it kind of takes the urgency out of it for a little bit.
Well,
but they were waiting for like them to be testing the bomb, right?
They were testing the nuclear bomb, and they thought this would be the right time. So there wasn't a lightning strike, there wasn't a clock tower, there wasn't the DeLorean.
And it was
there
too expensive too.
But that's what I want to say. At no point in the process were they like, hey, maybe the fridge not a great idea. It was only because they couldn't afford to shoot it at the end. The budget did not allow to shoot for something that large of a set piece and have the bomb and all that go off. So then they decided to change it.
We're at the Universal backlot. Let's just do it here.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Now he had also Doc Brown wasn't a doc, he was a professor.
Prof.
In the original, he was prof instead of doc. Also, it was the Springtime in Paris dance and not the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. He had a pet monkey and not a pet dog, so there's no Einstein in the original movie. And the reason I'm bringing this up is not only did it omit what you're saying is the best scene of the film, it also shows this script, Back to the Future Part 1, is taught in film school. They show you this is a perfect script. This is how you set up a world. This is how you set up characters. This is how you pay them off. Here's how you do great exposition without feeling like it's too much. But yet, it took so much to get to that perfect script. Sean, like it wasn't a page one. They got it right on the first time.
No, it's wild how many changes and what they envisioned wasn't really what was on screen at the end. I mean, so many changes, and then it was supposed to be a one-off, and that was it.
It was supposed to be a one-off, and that was it. And of course, it was the biggest movie of 1985. Now, I have a personal favorite scene that no one else is going to say is their favorite scene in this movie. It's in 1955 when when Marty wakes up in his mom's bed right? And the pants are over on the hope chest, which is just a crazy line when you think about it.
Yes, yeah.
My pants are over there on my hope chest. Oof. But then he goes downstairs. They have the dinner with the dad and the family and everything. And he says, no one has the 2 television sets, this whole thing. But the last line of the movie, or the scene is when he backs up from the table, runs out, and then the dad says he's an idiot. It comes from upbringing. His parents are probably idiots too. And this is the best scene for me in the movie.
I'll disown you. Yeah.
If you have a kid like that, I'm gonna disown you. This is a great scene in the movie.
We could just do the whole movie, right?
We could do the whole movie. We could do the whole movie. But what I wanted to move on to is the music in this movie is so iconic, from the score to the soundtrack itself. Now, you were around in 1985 when these songs played on what's called a radio, right?
Yeah, on radio. Yeah, they used to play songs.
So talk to me about it.
They used to play songs by Huey Lewis and the News. He was a big deal.
Was this a gramophone that you had, or was
it was a record player? But those are back. Yeah. Any vacuum tubes? Yeah, it was the first one. So glad I came out from California.
I'm sorry we made this
it's all good. My roast, I feel like.
How big was that? But how big was
the song? It was huge. It actually came out, my memory is it came out even before the movie. So it was already like the #1 song. And then it only helped that and Huey Lewis was huge because that was like during he had big hits like Heart of Rock and Roll, and If This Is It, the sports album, which you see the poster of the sports album in Marty's bedroom, which I'm sure is no coincidence. And also, by the way, Huey Lewis, an excellent cameo, if anybody knows. That's him as the guy that says, "I'm afraid you're just too darn loud," to the Pinheads, which is funny because he's the rock and roll guy. So, no, that song was huge. But that was at a time where, movies needed to have, Ghostbusters was the year before, and that song was everywhere. So it was kind of a big deal. And that it shows that it's also in the opening credits of the movie that it even gives it it says The Power of Love, performed by Huey Lewis and the News, as an opening credit thing, which you would never see now. But no, that song was huge.
It was big. It was a big song.
Big song. Big soundtrack. Had it on vinyl.
And to me, Alan Silvestri, I think, although he gets his props
now he does
as a composer, I mean, for a long time,
Spielberg didn't want him to do the score because he had heard the score. Robert Zemeckis' movie before was Romancing the Stone, which is excellent, but the score is kind of like saxophone-y, kind of jazzy. And so Spielberg had heard that, and he went, "Don't use Alan Silvestri for the Back to the Future score." And then Zemeckis used him anyway. And then Spielberg heard the Alan Silvestri score, didn't know it was Alan Silvestri, and said, "Oh yeah, more like that. That's what you should be doing." And Zemeckis said, "Oh, that's Alan Silvestri." And now Alan Silvestri is like one of the greatest composers in movies.
Yeah, I mean, the Avengers score. And, I mean, so many. But we're actually running a little bit against time. So I want to get to the next thing. And ironically, we're running out of time. So if anybody has any questions, we're going to get to it in a second. But I want to talk about some of y'all's favorite secondary characters from the movie. Because Back to the Future, we got our core four: Marty, Doc, Lorraine, George, then there's Biff, and of course Jennifer. But there's so many great secondary characters in Back to the Future, whether you're thinking about Mayor Goldie Wilson. I actually kind of just killed that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, well done.
Thank you. I was really impressed with myself. Without the microphone, I wouldn't have known. But there's so many. So do you have any favorite secondary characters?
Honestly, I was going to say him.
Yeah,
I was going to say Goldie. I like him getting the idea about becoming mayor and that moment specifically. I really like that standout. And then the mirroring of the original mayor's campaign, and then seeing what Goldie does in the present, or in their present in 1985. I really like that.
Yeah, Mayor Goldie Wilson gonna be hard to top. Who do you have?
I'm gonna go real deep. I was gonna say before Huey Lewis as the teacher, but I'm gonna say Mayor Red Thomas from 1955.
We never see him.
Yes, we do.
On the car?
Does anybody know where he reappears?
Oh, are you gonna say he's the hobo?
The bum at the inn, sleeping on the bench. That's the mayor from 1955.
I think they're just both named Red. They're just both named Red.
That's Red. How many Reds do you know? It's Red.
Well, it's an older name, so you would have a better shot at knowing more Reds than I.
But funny joke every time. So I'll say Red Thomas or Needles, because I want to know Needles' story. Because I believe after Needles hoses Marty, he looks up, and I think he's looking at the boss. I think they set him up. I think the boss was in the room,
Oh,
when he called him,
set up.
and then that's why he's able to jump on the call right away. McFly!
Yeah, McFly, Fujitsu-san, konnichiwa.
Big setup. Needles. I want to know his story.
What is up with him at the end of Back to the Future 3 when he is really revved up to race
Well,
Marty?
I think it's because it's played by Flea. I think if it had been, C. Thomas Howell, it wouldn't have been all crazy.
He is revved up for that. Who do you got? Your favorite secondary?
You read my notes. Goalie Wilson. I think he is the one that has the limited screen time, but a lasting impression. And a big part of the plot, too, I feel like, too. He's integrated, and his family, right, in the future with I think it's his grandson, right, in the second one that's the mayor?
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, that whole family has a lot going on, and their story might be cool, too.
Yeah, that's a good one. Again, I find myself to where the majority of y'all are just giving me the incorrect answer. So, at the end of Back to the Future 2, this is the best secondary character in the movie. Marty's just saw the DeLorean get struck by lightning and go to the 1885. Then a car pulls up in the middle of the rain, right? And out steps a gentleman in a trench coat and a hat. We don't know who he could be. Is he a detective? Is he a police officer? What is he? We don't know.
Is he armed?
Is he armed? Yeah. And he says, first of all, the craziest thing is, are you Marty McFly? I got something for you. A weird way to lean into that.
What a terrible Western Union guy, if that's like his way to like go up to people.
Is that what he does with everybody? Jeff Smith, I got something for you.
Like, I don't, in the rain.
And then he reaches in his coat, very strange, and then pulls out the letter. It's a letter, right? It's the Western Union man from the end of the movie. And he said that they had bets in the office. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever dealt with the United States Postal Service or the Western Union of any kind. The believability of them keeping a letter for 70 years.
I believe it, actually. I believe that they didn't. I don't think they knew they had it. Yeah. And then, like, a couple years
If you
before,
phrase it like that, no.
what is this? And they're like, oh, shoot, should we still deliver it? I guess. Let's make bets. Yeah. No, I think it's an accident and then dedication.
I like Western Union man. I like Old Man Peabody, who had the crazy idea about breeding pine trees.
He was angry, too.
Yeah.
He was shooting at everybody.
He was not pleased. There's so many great ones. We're running out of time here. Does anybody, before we wrap things up, does anybody have any long-standing Back to the Future related questions that you might answer? Yes, sir. What's your name?
Sure. Yeah. He invents rock and roll. That's the whole reason he's in a band.
Yeah. Marvin, Barry, your cousin. They really wanted to spell that one out.
We get
for
it,
us. Yeah. That's a great one. Johnny Be Good is iconic, and it's in 1 and 2. You get to see the other things. Yeah, that's a great one. Does anybody have any?
The centerpiece of the Family Guy pairing.
That's true.
That's the power of love.
Family Guy. It's like, I have to tell you about the future. No. I need to tell you about your future.
That's a good one too. Okay, yeah, I like that. Anybody else have any other questions related to Back to the Future before we wrap this?
That's a good
thing?
favorite scene.
Huh?
That's a good favorite scene, Johnny Be Good.
The
whole enchantment. I mean, the enchantment of the sea dance is so good we get to see it twice.
No.
Yeah.
I think
I liked it more in the second one.
Why is that?
Oh, just because.
It's like what they did in the first one, but just better. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It was just better.
Yeah.
It was just better. Here's my final question for everybody. Sean, I'll start with you. What makes this movie so iconic, and why do we still talk about it now, 40 plus years later, or 40 years later?
I think it's because of Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd at the end of the day. I don't think it would have been what it is without those two. I think they make those films.
Michael?
I can't imagine those movies without their performances. Like, without them, that movie, I don't know that it's a timeless classic as it is, pun intended.
Jeff, why is this movie so rewatchable?
I just think because it is just a feel-good movie that when you put it on, you don't have to watch the whole thing, but it also, for those of us that have watched it over and over and over again, which is a lot of people, it immediately takes you back to the first time you saw it. And not a lot of movies do that, where when you watch it, you immediately feel, I mean, that's what I was talking about when you're like, I wonder if he's going to make it this time. You're invested in it immediately, and it's super positive, which is nice.
I think, like I said at the beginning of this panel, again, the movie's about choices and the choices that we make. And honestly, I've spent probably more time than I should thinking about, if I did do this, where would I have ended up? If I'd never met Michael Carrell, would I be here on the stage today? And things like that. And it's about choices. And what's so great too is it tells us that the destiny, or all density or destiny, is in our own hands. And that's what Doc leans in to say to Marty at the very end. Your future's whatever you make it.
Yeah.
So make it a good one. And we appreciate y'all for making this a great podcast and hanging out with us for the last 45 minutes. I want everyone to shout out where they can find y'all and follow y'all.
Yeah, you can check out my website, nerdtropolis.com, for movie news, reviews, interviews, and trailers.
All right. MC?
You can find Comiccast wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Comiccast, COMICAST, and you can follow me on all social media platforms at Producer Mike 975.
Now, Jeff, social media is a thing that's been invented. So where can they find you on it? And
I'll get on it eventually. I'm still working on MySpace. You can see all the socials including a link to a podcast that you and I do called Clue the Movie Podcast, because it's all about Clue. Clue Doc, as in Brown, but cluedoc.com.
All right. And y'all can all scan this QR code. I'll leave these up here if you want to check out Back to the Future, the podcast. 10 seasons, interviewed most of the cast on here. Really recommend you checking that out. And also checking out Clue, the movie podcast that I do with Jeff. You can follow me on all social media at Brad Gilmore. Roads where we're going. We don't need roads. Comicpalooza 2024. Thank you so much for having us out. We appreciate it.
Thank you.